The phrase requires only grade school knowledge. Mangled by comedian Rush Limbaugh. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Comedian's version presently. And in our #1 story, Dick Cheney invited to a fundraising dinner to benefit the American Museum of Fly Fishing amid protest. And also former Governor Rod Blagojevich finally gets some cash for his bleepin' valuable thing. Comedian first in his big CPAC State of the Union type big thing speech.
We believe that the preamble of the Constitution contains an inarguable truth, that we are all endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, among them life, liberty, freedom, and the pursuit of happiness.
Well, you may believe that the preamble of the Constitution includes that, but that whole inalienable rights phrase comes from the Declaration of Independence. And, of course, the off-cited passage ends life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This from the winner of CPAC's Defender of the Constitution Award. And while the former vice president has agreed to speak this fall at a fundraiser for the American Museum of Fly Fishing, the fishermen are having none of it. They want to throw him back, citing Cheney's environmental policy record. From the conservation editor at Fly, Rod, and Reel magazine, quote, "The entire fly fishing community is appalled and disgusted. We all need money, but to apply green lipstick to this Darth Vader of fish and wildlife is whoring. It's grotesque." Good for you, Ted Williams. And how about a 6-figure book deal for the former governor of Illinois with Phoenix Books about his rise and fall, mostly fall? Let's bring in the host of VH1's Best Week Ever, comedian Paul F. Tompkins. Paul, good evening.
Good evening, Keith.
Rush Limbaugh, defender of the misquoted Constitution, apparently.
What I love, it's tremendous. I think maybe he's trying to defend the Constitution by disguising it as the Declaration of Independence. So if people come a-looking for it to grab it and tear it into shreds or whatever they're going to do, they'll mistake it for the other document.
Great idea. Also, this was in the speech. Also, for those of you in the drive-by media watching, I have not needed a teleprompter for anything I've said. Maybe he should have used a teleprompter rather than just relying on his ego to remember which is in the Constitution and what it is.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure who this zinger was intended for exactly. Like anyone whose job involves public speaking since the invention of the teleprompter, like it's not a shameful thing. Also, I think you shouldn't call people out for needing a script when you need a script. You know, in speech-making terms, that's considered being awful at your job.
Turning to the former vice president, even more criticism. The former commissioner of the Vermont Fish and Wildlife Department called Mr. Cheney, quote, "one of the great enemies of healthy fish and wildlife conservation in the U.S. over the last 8 years." We have a prospect here of actually seeing, guys in knee-length boots with hats and the little flies attached to them and the rod and the reel over their shoulders protesting outside this dinner if it actually comes to pass?
I hope so, because that will be the most beautiful, bucolic protest anyone's ever seen. It'll be like it was painted by Thomas Kincaid.
And the other man protesting from the Fly and Rod magazine is the other Ted Williams, apparently. But the response to all of this, I imagine, from Cheney would be, "So?"
Yeah, exactly. Like, this guy did not care when people questioned him putting humans into harm's way. I don't think he's afraid to go to war with fish.
Right.
Fish are just humans that haven't been intelligently designed yet.
Paul, it's like shooting humans in a barrel. Sorry. To the governor, Mr. Blagojevich, his statement, the governor chose to go with a large independent company, a publisher, because he wanted to tell his stories without restrictions over content. Like $100,000 to write a book about his decline and the whole selling of the Illinois Senate seat. What sort of restrictions is he preparing himself for? Like restrictions where he'd have to stick to the truth?
Yeah, I mean, who's holding the guy back now? He's been on every show from The View to Yo Gabba Gabba saying that he didn't do anything wrong when he's on tape doing something wrong. I can't wait to see this book because I'm hoping that it's going to be written in crayon.
One last thing. And by the way, he personally will sell every copy of that book and negotiate the price with you. If you don't pay enough, he'll start swearing at you. Last thing from CPAC. They had a preference straw poll, a presidential straw poll, and the CPACers chose Mitt Romney, 20%, Jindal second, Ron Paul, and Sarah Palin at about 13%. This was a ringing endorsement of what, do you suppose?
a group shrug. I mean, this is going to be the hollowest victory for Mitt Romney, that he was only 7% ahead of these other goofballs. Like, don't you understand? I'm the guy who almost lost to Obama.
Well, what was the ratio? He spent $60 million to get two delegates or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And 20% in the straw poll.
Yeah. Money well spent, Mitt.
And he's the businessman. Paul F. Tompkins. Well, that explains the whole business community at the moment. Paul F. Tompkins, the host of VH1's Best Week Ever. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Keith.